Vietnam wasn't all bad. We had tears, we had laughter. No? Can't hear me? Oh, gee, I don't get that very often. Can't hear you. As I was saying, we had some tears and we had some joy, and I think we're going to have a bit of that this morning. I'd like to know how many people here went to Vietnam, and I know there's some of you out there. Tom? Jake? Billy? Hoorah, Maureen? Who else? Anyone online? Ah, we're getting old. I know you carry stories, and I thank you for being here today. People ask me why I went to Vietnam. I think I was compelled to. It was mainly because my people were there, scared young Americans. I was a cross between the unsinkable Molly Brown and Lucy, the redhead, not the Peanuts chick. It started out like you'd expect. I'd never been away from home before. The first hour in Saigon, I was kidnapped by a Vietnamese taxi driver in a very inept robbery attempt. That's a story for another time. My first night in Saigon saw a rocket attack. I fixed a drink and went up on the roof. I thought it was fireworks. My second day, my wristwatch was wrenched from my wrist. My sightseeing trip, President Chu's palace, the post office, the Chinese market, were all marked by bombings just after I left. The second week, I was at a party when a clumsy CIA agent accidentally discharged a gun, the bullet passing right over my head and breaking a lamp in back of me. I was bending down to tie my shoe. I took a naked moonlight swim once. The driver was waiting behind a sand dune, only to find out that not only were poisonous sea snakes in the lagoon, but the shore was ringed with North Vietnamese and American troops who presumably did not want to disclose their location to each other and who were probably amazed at what they were watching. All stories for the book I never wrote. But the event that stands out by far is Christmas Day in Laos on the Sanabu. The Sanabu was an Air Force C-7 Caribou with the nose painted for Christmas. And Helene's got a picture of it up for you. The USO and Air Force collaborated to bring Christmas for the star bases in Cambodia and Laos. This is before Nixon carpet bombed it. This was a huge and dangerous undertaking that involved months of preparation. I was a manager of a USO club in Vung Tau, and I think Helene's got a picture of that, which was in-country R&R, not only for American troops, but for Australians, New Zealanders, and South Koreans. Ironically, it was in-country R&R for the North Vietnamese Army also, and there were certain areas Americans and their allies were not allowed to go. A certain area of town and VC Beach, Viet Cong Beach. So our USO club, unlike any other in-country, was in the heart of town. I lived in an old French hotel in the Army's office, which served as the Army Officers Club, and it must have been so elegant when water spewed from the fountains instead of waist-high weeds. But back to the Sanabu. I started by asking GIs where they were from and what radio stations they listened to. And then I wrote to those stations explaining the project of bringing Christmas to the troops. And boy, did they come through. Their listeners kept up a steady stream of small gifts, puzzles, books, toiletries, and Christmas cards. My Vietnamese staff boxed them and stored them all through the year. The booty came from all over the United States. It came, and it came, and it came. There were so many gifts, we added Christmas Eve to the project. Finally, it was here. Christmas. I donned my best miniskirt and headed to the airport at 5 a.m. I had no idea what awaited me or what this day would mean to me forever after. We visited 7 bases on Christmas Day, dotted throughout Laos and Cambodia. Despite the Christmas truce in effect, the pilots kept the engines running and kept us to a strict 15 minutes on the ground. And they landed on little landing strips in the jungle that were basically dirt roads. The back of the plane opened up and the crew unloaded box after box. A few jeeps could be seen racing up from the distance, the dust clouds getting closer and closer. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't the biggest attraction. Most of these guys hadn't seen a woman, let alone an American woman in a miniskirt, in months. So for 15 minutes, we opened gifts together. We laughed, hugged, like we'd known each other all our lives. I was their sister, their wife, their girlfriend. I was from home. What I've never forgotten, that among all those things we delivered, what do you think was the most popular? The Christmas cards. I was amazed. Why would anyone want to read cards from strangers? But they did. They ripped open card after card and read them aloud to each other. They were home for Christmas. It was touching. In one case, a GI said, "You got to see my hooch." The pilot laughed and said, "Be back in 10 minutes sharp." This guy had a room dug into the earth, supported by boards. Inside the tiny room, he had pictures of home and a calendar with each day X'd out. This pattern was repeated throughout the long, long day. Take off, land, engines running, laugh, hug, Christmas cards, take off, land. These guys longed for the day that they could come home. Home wasn't home anymore. Men had walked on the moon that year, but Kent State happened. Many of those girlfriends had moved on. No one back home wanted to hear about their experiences in Vietnam. In fact, many were spat upon. And so they stuffed it. They packed it away, all the memories, but not the trauma. Gary Burka, my cousin by marriage, and I just found this out a few weeks ago, who lives in Seattle, Washington, was drafted and went to Vietnam in 1969 when he was 18. Gary received the Silver Star in 2015 for his courageous act of pulling his friend to safety after both had been wounded. I'm so very proud of him. The Silver Star is a big deal. He writes in his book, Ambush, which takes about an hour to read, and I will put in our library back there. He's not a writer, but it's eloquent. I've changed a bit also. I'm very jumpy now, and I have a very hard time sleeping. I can get nasty very quickly. When I sleep, I don't remember dreaming, but I know I do, because when I wake up, my pillow and bed are often wet from sweat. I no longer hunt or have guns. The war ruined any feeling I have for hunting. I'll never be able to do all the things I did growing up as a country boy. My hope is to overcome the pain and anguish I've suffered for 50 years and somehow try to make Christine's and my life meaningful and happy together. It's not that I had such a bad life, but it could have been so much more. What is it in us that drives us to flock to airports and highways to get home for the holidays? We're like salmon swimming upstream against all obstacles to reach our goals. And as the years pass and we age, the concept of home becomes a soft focus. Every Christmas it comes, sometimes creeping, sometimes with a flash. The concept of what is home to us flashes into our consciousness. Home, where we were safe, warm, laughed, were fed, where we were loved unconditionally. I would ask you today, midway between Christmas, Hanukkah, and the New Year, to take a moment to conjure up in your mind what home for the holidays meant for you as a child. Would you close your eyes? Indulge me? I want you to see it. Is there a tree? Decorations? Hear it. Is there laughter? Football maybe on TV? Smell it. What's cooking? Who's there? Who do you love? Who loves you unconditionally? Now open your eyes, look around, look at this place. Are you safe? Are you warm? Do we feed you? Do we laugh with you? Are you loved? If the answer is yes, then I submit you are home for the holidays.